You were taught that obedience leads to reward. That was the first lie. You went to school. You got the degree they told you to get. You applied for jobs. You worked overtime. You saved when you could. You delayed the things you wanted. You followed every rule they gave you. And somehow, you're still behind. The rent went up. The groceries cost more. The savings account stays flat. And the people who were supposed to be just like you are now either struggling the same way, or they figured out something you didn't. This video will show you why following the rules was never designed to make you win. You'll understand who wrote those rules, what they actually protect, and why the game stays rigged even when everyone can see it's rigged. This isn't about motivation. It's about structure. Because the problem isn't you. The problem is that you were placed inside a system where obedience is rewarded with access, not with power. Where compliance keeps you alive, but never free. And the moment you realize that the rules exist to sort people, not to save them, everything starts to make sense. What the system actually is. Let's start with what a system actually is. Not the abstract idea. The real thing. A system is a set of rules that decides who gets resources, who gets security, and who gets left out. It's not neutral. It's not designed to be fair. It's designed to be stable. And stability doesn't mean everyone wins. It means the same people keep winning. You were told the system rewards hard work. That's partially true. It does reward hard work. But only the kind of hard work that doesn't threaten the people already in control. Think about it. You can work 60 hours a week and still need a roommate. Someone else can inherit a property and never work again. Both of you are inside the same system. But the system doesn't treat you the same. It was never supposed to. The rules you follow, the ones that promise safety and success, those rules are designed to keep you productive, not powerful. There's a difference. Productive means you generate value. Powerful means you control where that value goes. And here's the part most people miss. The system needs far more productive people than powerful people. So it builds an entire culture around obedience. Around rule following. Around doing what you're told and trusting the process. But the process was never designed to elevate you. It was designed to extract from you. How it operates. The sorting mechanism. The system sorts people early. It starts in school. You're tested. You're graded. You're ranked. And you're told this ranking reflects your merit, your intelligence, your worth. But what it actually reflects is your ability to comply with a structure you didn't design. The students who do well aren't always the smartest. They're the ones who learned earliest how to perform within the system's rules. How to memorize what's required. How to meet deadlines. How to satisfy authority. That's not intelligence. That's obedience training. And it works. Because by the time you enter the workforce, you've spent 15, maybe 20 years learning that the path to reward is following instructions. So when your job undervalues you, when your rent takes half your income, when your savings can't keep up with inflation, your first instinct isn't to challenge the system. It's to assume you didn't follow the rules well enough. You blame yourself. And that's the design. The system doesn't need to defend itself if you're already defending it in your own mind. This is where the real control appears. Not in force. Not in surveillance. But in belief. If you believe the system is fair and you're just not good enough yet, you'll keep participating. You'll keep working harder. You'll keep following the rules. And the system will keep extracting. The illusion of meritocracy. You've heard the word meritocracy. The idea that talent and effort determine success. It sounds right. It feels fair. But meritocracy has a problem. It assumes everyone starts from the same position. They don't. Someone born into wealth has access to better schools, better networks, better opportunities, and better safety nets. They can take risks you can't afford. They can fail without losing everything. They can wait for the right opportunity instead of taking the first one that pays. You don't have that. So when you compete, you're not competing on merit. You're competing with a handicap you didn't choose. But the system doesn't advertise this. It advertises the success stories. The people who made it. The self-made billionaires. The rags-to-riches narratives. And it holds them up as proof that the system works. But here's what those stories actually prove. Exceptions exist. That's it. Exceptions don't disprove the rule. They reinforce it. Because if one person out of 10,000 makes it, the system can say, "See? It's possible." And the other 9,999 are left believing they just didn't work hard enough. That's not meritocracy. That's a lottery with better marketing. And this is why it never collapses. Because the system doesn't need everyone to win. It just needs enough people to believe they could win. That keeps them playing. Who benefits? The architecture of extraction. So who actually benefits? Not the people following the rules. They're the ones generating the value. The ones working, producing, consuming, paying rent, paying interest, paying taxes. The people who benefit are the ones who own the structures that everyone else depends on. The landlords, the creditors, the shareholders, the people who don't need to work because their money works for them. This isn't a conspiracy. It's just math. If you own the things people need, land, housing, credit, infrastructure, you don't need to labor. You just need to maintain ownership. And the system protects ownership far more aggressively than it protects labor. Think about debt. You borrow money to go to school, to buy a car, to buy a house. You're told this is an investment in your future. And maybe it is. But it's a guaranteed investment in someone else's future. Because debt isn't just an obligation. It's a transfer mechanism. Every month, you send a portion of your income to someone who already has more than you. And that transfer is protected by law. You can't escape it. You can't negotiate it away. If you fail to pay, the system punishes you, not the creditor. The system is built to protect the people collecting, not the people paying. And this extends beyond individuals. Entire economies are structured this way. Governments borrow. They pay interest. That interest goes to bondholders, to banks, to financial institutions. It doesn't go to schools. It doesn't go to hospitals. It doesn't go to infrastructure. It goes up. Always up. And the people at the top of that structure don't need to be cruel. They don't need to conspire. They just need to keep the system running exactly as it was designed. Why it survives crisis. You'd think a crisis would break the system. Expose it. Force a change. But it doesn't. Every major crisis in the last century, the Great Depression, the 2008 financial collapse, the pandemic, every single one followed the same pattern. First, the crisis hits. People lose jobs. They lose homes. They lose savings. The system appears to be failing. Then, the people who own the system step in. Not to fix it. To stabilize it. Governments bail out banks. They inject liquidity. They protect assets. And within a few years, the wealth that was lost by ordinary people has been recaptured by the people who were already wealthy. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature. The system is designed to survive crisis by sacrificing the people at the bottom. Because here's the truth. A crisis doesn't threaten the system. It threatens the people inside it. And the system responds by protecting its core functions, ownership, credit, capital, while letting everything else collapse. You lose your job. The bank gets bailed out. You lose your home. The investor buys it at a discount. You drain your savings. The stock market recovers. And when it's over, you're told the system survived. But what actually survived? Not you. The structure. The hierarchy. The same people in the same positions with more control than before. That's why crises don't lead to revolution. They lead to consolidation. Why it repeats across history. This pattern isn't new. It's ancient. Debt, crisis, collapse, restructuring. It's happened in Mesopotamia, in Rome, in medieval Europe, in every empire that ever built itself on credit and obligation. The Roman Empire had debt forgiveness riots. Medieval Europe had peasant revolts over land seizures. Every generation thought they were facing something new. But they weren't. They were facing the same structure wearing different language. Because the structure doesn't care what you call it. Feudalism, capitalism, socialism. Whatever name you give it, if it's built on the same logic, ownership concentrates, labor gets extracted, and crisis becomes the mechanism of control, it will produce the same result. And here's the uncomfortable part. The people running the system know this. Not all of them, but enough. They've read the history. They've studied the cycles. And they've learned that the system doesn't need to be popular. It just needs to be necessary. As long as people need housing, they'll pay rent. As long as they need credit, they'll pay interest. As long as they need jobs, they'll accept wages below the value they produce. The system survives because it makes itself necessary. And once it's necessary, it doesn't matter if it's fair. The real function of rules. So what are the rules actually for? They're not there to protect you. They're there to organize you, to make you predictable, to channel your energy into forms that don't disrupt the people in control. Work hard. Stay in your lane. Don't steal. Don't cheat. Pay your debts. Respect property. These aren't moral principles. They're operational guidelines. They keep the system running smoothly. And if you follow them, you're rewarded with stability. Not wealth. Not power. Stability. The paycheck. A roof. The promise that if you keep doing what you're told, you won't be cast out. But that stability is conditional. It can be revoked. Your job can disappear. Your rent can go up. Your savings can be devalued. And when that happens, the system doesn't apologize. It just reminds you that you should have worked harder, saved more, been more prepared. The rules were never a guarantee. They were a test of compliance. And the people who pass the test aren't freed. They're just allowed to keep playing. The trap of incremental thinking. Here's where it gets even darker. You're taught to think incrementally. Save a little more. Earn a little more. Invest a little more. And eventually, you'll get ahead. But the system isn't incremental. It's exponential. Wealth doesn't grow linearly. It compounds. And compounding only works if you start with enough to compound. If you're starting from zero, or worse, from debt, incremental progress doesn't catch up. It just keeps you in the game long enough to keep extracting value from you. Think about retirement. You're told to save for 40 years so you can stop working at 65. But inflation erodes your savings. Markets crash. Fees eat into your returns. And even if everything goes right, you've spent 40 years generating profit for someone else just to buy yourself a few years of rest at the end. That's not freedom. That's a long, slow lease on your own life. And the people who designed this system, they're not saving for retirement. They're inheriting wealth that's already compounding. They're not playing the same game you are. They're playing a different game on a different board with different rules. But you're told you're all in the same system. And technically you are. You're just in the part of the system designed to lose. Why intelligence doesn't save you? You might think understanding this gives you an advantage. It doesn't. Because the system doesn't care if you see it. It only cares if you can escape it. And escaping requires resources you probably don't have. You can understand that rent is extraction. That doesn't mean you can stop paying it. You can understand that debt is a trap. That doesn't mean you can avoid it if you need an education, a car, or medical care. Knowledge without leverage is just frustration. You see the cage, but you're still inside it. And this is the most elegant part of the design. The system is transparent enough that smart people can figure it out, but robust enough that figuring it out doesn't help them escape. So you're left with a choice. Keep playing and hope you're one of the exceptions. Or stop playing and lose access to everything the system controls. Most people choose the first option. Not because they're stupid, because they're rational. The system makes itself the only option. The illusion of reform. Every few years, someone promises to fix it. A new politician. A new policy. A new movement. And people get hopeful. But here's the problem. Reform doesn't threaten the system. It updates it. It sands down the edges that are causing too much friction, and then it puts everything back in place. You get a minimum wage increase. But rent goes up. You get a stimulus check. But inflation eats it. You get debt forgiveness for some. But the structure that creates debt stays intact. Because real change, the kind that would actually redistribute power, requires breaking the system. And the people with the power to break it are the same people who benefit from keeping it whole. So reform becomes theater. It makes people feel like something is happening. It releases pressure. And then everything continues. This is why it never really changes. Not because people don't want it to, but because the system is designed to absorb resistance and convert it into proof of its own legitimacy. You protest. They listen. They make a small adjustment. And then they point to that adjustment as evidence that the system works. But the adjustment was never meant to free you. It was meant to keep you calm. What compliance actually costs. Let's talk about what you've actually sacrificed by following the rules. You've traded time for money at a rate you didn't set. You've accepted jobs that undervalue you because the alternative was nothing. You've gone into debt for things the previous generation got for free. You've worked through sickness, through exhaustion, through grief, because stopping meant falling behind. You've delayed having children, buying a home, taking risks, because you couldn't afford the instability. You've watched your friends do the same. You've normalized a level of stress and insecurity that would have been unthinkable 2 generations ago. And you've done all of this while being told that this is just how life is. That everyone struggles. That it gets better if you keep going. But it doesn't get better. It gets more efficient. The system learns how much it can extract from you without breaking you. And then it extracts exactly that much. You're not living. You're being managed. And the cost of that management is everything you could have been if you weren't spending all your energy just surviving. The question no one asks. Here's the question you're not supposed to ask. What if the rules were never designed for you to win? What if the entire structure, school, work, debt, consumption, what if it was only ever designed to keep you productive and compliant until you can't work anymore? What if the people who succeed aren't the ones who followed the rules best, but the ones who had enough resources to break them without consequence? What if everything you were taught about fairness, merit, and effort, what if it was just a story to keep you participating in a system that needs you far more than you need it? Because here's the thing. The system doesn't produce anything. You do. The workers, the renters, the debtors, the consumers, you're the ones generating the value. The system just decides where it goes. And it's decided it goes up. Always up. Closing. So where does that leave you? Right here. In the same system. With the same rules. Knowing what you know now. The system doesn't need you to believe in it. It doesn't need your consent. It doesn't even need you to like it. It only needs you to participate. And every day you go to work, pay your rent, service your debt, buy what you're told to buy, you're voting for the system to continue exactly as it is. Not because you're weak. Not because you're stupid. But because it's made itself the only game in town. The rules were never there to protect you. They were there to sort you. And if you're watching this, you already know which side of that sorting you landed on. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Because the system is counting on you to do nothing. It's counting on you to keep playing. To keep hoping. To keep believing that if you just follow the rules a little better, work a little harder, save a little more, things will turn out differently. They won't. Not because change is impossible, but because the system was never broken. It's working exactly as designed.